the soul of entertainment.
Self-control is essential in behavior to achieve goals and to avoid impulses or emotions that could prove to be negative. Self-control has become a hot topic for both scientists interested in understanding the roots of human behavior and for practitioners who want to help people to live healthier lives. Addiction, overeating, crime, domestic violence, sexually transmitted diseases, prejudice, deaths, unwanted pregnancies, educational failure, underperformance at school and work, lack of savings, failure to exercise, all have some degree of self-control failure as a central aspect. Self-control could be used for controlling thoughts and emotions, regulating tasks. Research has shown that an average person spends 3 to 4 hours a day resisting desires. After making decisions, people perform worse at self-control. Conversely, after exerting self-control, decision-making shifts towards simpler and easier processes that can lead people to taking poor decisions or avoid making choices at all. As the saying goes, most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. So the ability to discipline yourself is important in achieving any goal. Self-control is the ability to control the actions you take in your daily life and the decision you make. A person with control is able to meet temptations and manage distractions calmly. But our lives are full of temptations that tax our self-control and drain our willpower. Self-control is vital to our successes because people with good self-control tend to be both more popular and more successful in many areas of life. There are many tips and ways to deal with self-control, and that depends on what exactly you are working on. But the best way is to use affirmation, adjust values, commitments, fight the unconscious, put it in writing, reward yourself, and also give yourself sanctions or punitive measures. These are very important steps to get one's self-control in check. Remember, if you want to be successful in life, you must have self-control to caution yourself from things that can deplete your journey in life. So, get your self-control in check.
Yeah, good morning. It's another beautiful Monday morning. And it's good to be with you again on Summit, showing on MITV. I am Jumoke Michaels. And Banji is right here. Banji, good morning.
Jumoke, good morning.
After the elections.
After the elections, yeah, where are we now? You're from Kogi.
Oh,
Did you travel home for the election?
No, I'm not. I didn't travel home. But,
where are you registered? Where are you registered?
I'm registered in Lagos.
In Lagos, okay, you're excused. You should have gone to do a kind of monitoring to know what's actually happening in your state.
Well, my sister works there, so she represented.
Works as INEC official.
Yeah.
I hope
she was an ad hoc staff.
Ad hoc staff.
Yeah. So
because, but the reports, if the reports we're getting, we got actually on Saturday, is anything to go by. I mean, it is far from what we expected. Yeah. I mean, based on our analysis before the elections, we look forward to a peaceful, free, fair, and hitch-free polls. But these were elections, both in Kogi and Bayelsa. Elections marred with violence and all forms of electoral malpractices from the reports we actually got. But whichever way it goes.
But for me, the indications were all there before the elections, because there were already snippets
telltale signs
here and there, and one would expect that the authority would have put some other things in place.
You recall that on Wednesday, on this program, we discussed the incident that happened at the Peace Accord, where the IGP and both of them were present, and there were still pockets of some forms of shielded from protesters and all that.
So the indication was all there. So that's what we
But I asked our guests that day whether there were going to be surprises, and they said, yes, we should expect surprises. In Bayelsa, after 20 years, Jumoke, PDP has actually gained control. Won that election. APC has won in Bayelsa State after 20 years.
That's one of the little surprises.
This one is a big one.
It's a big surprise.
I mean, home state of our former president, President Goodluck Jonathan. And there is a card-carrying member of PDP. To have lost his state, something must have happened
within his
polling unit.
Yeah, his polling unit, rather.
Okay, something must have happened within the family, maybe disagreements.
Well.
All right.
Yeah,
but in Kogi, counting is still on now. It was suspended last night and it has resumed now. Counting has actually resumed in Kogi. So we don't know the winner yet in Kogi. But one of the contestant, that's Senator Dino Melai, allegedly lost his nephew.
Oh yeah, I think from the breaking news, I think the Lagos West senatorial district has been
put on hold.
Put on hold, yes, it's inconclusive.
He lost his nephew. That's to tell you how violent the election was in Kogi.
So that's the report.
We'll get there one day, Jumoke.
Yeah, but before we go into the discussion this morning, we'll be looking at the achievements of one of the local government chairmen in Lagos State, talking about Ojokoro LCDA here in Lagos. And we are doing that to showcase the fact that some of our leaders are actually working. Because from some of the things he said during the interview, it showed that he has a heart.
A passion.
Yeah, a passion to see people, improve, to see his immediate environment fall in line with the theme for Lagos State. Because it's one thing for the state to have a theme and then you are doing your own thing. But he has aligned his leadership with the present
Jumoke, you can say that again. In fact, currently, he has just returned from Ukraine, where he actually took
some of the
sportsmen, there's player, footballers within that local government. And the local government actually sponsored their career in the countries to develop, to join the professional football league in those countries, in Ukraine particularly. And it was as a result of the screening, out of which 10 of them were successful. The local government picked the bill. The chairman led the team to Ukraine a couple of days ago. He has just returned to the country. If other local governments, that alone, that was one of the things that actually impressed me about his activity. So much to talk about, that's Ojokoro LCDA. But that singular one of actually taking sports to that level is what I think others should emulate.
All right, so we'll be taking this package briefly, showcasing the chairman, the chairman and his environment, Ojokoro LCDA. Please stay with us, and then we'll return, and then we'll take our discussion doing a review of the Kogi and Bayelsa elections. Stay with us. Since assumption of office about 2 years ago, the executive chairman of Ojokoro Local Council Development Area, Honorable Hamed Idowu Tijani, has ensured the fulfillment of his electoral promises. In this episode, efforts are made to capture the activities of the council in ensuring good and adequate environment. To start with, we are focused on how far the council has keyed into Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's policy on environment.
This local government has been in the forefront of making sure that our environment is clean and very, very okay. Since the inception of this administration, we've been taking it as one of our priority because we know that environment speaks volume about whom you are and what you are. And because of that, when His Excellency came into power, he made a statement that every area must be clean, and that's exactly what we have been doing. We encourage the PSP to make sure that they do their work accordingly. And not only that, we have made it a point of duty that on monthly basis we have a mark a sum of money where the environmental unit always go around and see if there's any black spot, they clear it, and making sure that the whole local government is clean. At the beginning of the rainy season this year, we have resolved that all our drains has to be cleared, and since then we've been going around and look at all the drains that has one problem or the other to make sure that we remove all the debris that is inside. Particularly as of today, we have clears not less than 15 to 20 different drainages, the law of long stretch. For instance, we have Agbe Road that because of the volume of the water that is entering that particular street, it has made it to be somehow blocked. So because of that one, we know that the importance of that particular road, we know that it is very important that that particular drainage in that street is always clean. So because of that one, we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we remove all the debris and cut it away. Not only that, we did same at we have Nuren Yusuf Road, the same thing Fagbe Road Street, this our particular road here, Bola Ahmed Tinubu Road, and host of others. And we did something at Agric Road some times ago. So And all those ones, as we are removing it, they cut it away, because we believe that if they should leave it for the following day, the passerby can easily push it back to the drains or the vehicles and what have you. And when there is another rain, the things still go back to where it comes from. So because of that one, even in some cases when it warrants to work in the night, the environmental unit works overnight to make sure that they remove all this. So there's a particular canal called Adubi Canal around Adubi Sawmill. It beyonds the effort of this local government. Often the state government, through the Ministry of Environment, have always been coming to make sure that they assist us in that area. And not only that, the same thing happens a few years back at Ilo Awela stream. So, but presently, when we started to encounter some flooding, we call on the NEMA, because we wrote letters to the governor, copied the Ministry of Environment, and that necessitates the NEMA and the LASEMA to come to our local government a few weeks back to come and do the assessment of the effect of the flooding in this local government.
How well have the people of the local council imbibed the culture of clean environment?
Our people, some were always adherents to that directive, but in some area we still find some debris on the drains, which normally block the drainage, and the environmental unit has always been out there to make sure, particularly on Thursdays, to sensitize people on the menace, because we know that the havoc that it normally rains on our properties is much, and because of that one, the environmental unit always go out on Thursday in conjunction with the information unit to sensitize our people on this area. I cannot say in total, but to some extent, many of them have been taken to this. Number one, they go to marketplaces to sensitize people on this, and from time to time, the information unit goes out on the motorized campaign, telling people that they should park their refuse in front of their house and allow the PSP operators to come and take it up. And I think some time ago we did some jingles on the radio as well. So these are the means that we have been taking to do the enlightenment.
What then is the advice of the council chairman, Honorable Ahmed Tijani, for the people of the local council on clean environment?
Anybody's property, if it's damaged, is going to start all over again. So it is advisable that our people should be adherents to the refuse disposal culture in a way that it will not harm other people. It will just it will not block our drainages where it will cause flooding. So I'll still appeal to them that they should maintain the best way to dispose their refuse so that it will not cause another problem for another person.
right, thanks for still being there. So that was it from the chairman, Ojokoro LCD. Now we're moving to our discussion this morning, which we title Kogi Bayelsa Elections Review. And joining us for this discussion, we have Mr. Jide Ologun, an attorney at law and also a public affairs analyst. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Unlike Jumake, I know you are not from Kogi, but you must have played the role of an observer. Were you in Kogi for, or what role did you play in both elections?
We're monitoring.
You're
monitoring the two.
You're monitoring the two.
From the Center of Excellence.
From the Center of Excellence. So, what's your view? What are your thoughts about this election? How did it go from your own perspective?
It's really disturbing, though some of us expected it, going by the pre-election antecedents, because there were reports, and we should have served as intelligence report for the security agencies, that some were stockpiling ammunition, there was going to be violence, intimidation, and it's as if we've come to adopt violence as part of the electoral process, forgetting the fact that there is an end for the electoral process, which is to set in motion a government that reflects the color of democracy. So right now, we are probably setting a new agenda for democracy in Nigeria. And it's quite unfortunate because it is seeking to derail the real concept of democracy. You know, democracy started in Athens, in Greece, in the days of old, where the community will come together and deliberate on matters affecting them and how to enhance the fortunes of the society. But by and large, when other societies started adopting that fantastic system that reflects your interest in how you are governed, we started having elective democracy, in which case, in this population, all of us cannot go to the National Assembly, we cannot go and sit in the Aso Villa.
So we surrender our rights to a few.
Exactly. For example, we are about 200 million now. We have adopted that as, you know, stipulated by the United Nations as a people. But we have 109 senators representing these 200 million citizens. We have about 360 House of Reps members to go and represent us. Why are they representing us? To ensure that we have a very sound economy, to ensure that we have an enabling environment, to ensure that we have prosperity, to ensure that we have infrastructure, to ensure that we have sustainability, which is not jeopardizing the future, the interest of the future generation. And if you look at the feedback we are having from the investment into the so-called democracy, we appear to be back in time as a people. Because I throw these questions to Nigerians: the pre-political independence era of Nigeria and today, which can we claim to be better in terms of infrastructure, in terms of visible dividends of governance and stuff like that? So these are big issues.
These are big issues. Before we actually take a holistic view, the issue of security in the last elections was of great concern to many of us. Lives were lost. People were actually attacked. Ballot boxes were snatched. People were disenfranchised. We were told that about 32,000 policemen will be deployed to Kogi elections, for instance. What went wrong? Do you suspect that anything, or is it a problem of personnel or lack of planning, or what could have happened? I mean, this ballot snatching is not new to our politics, to our elections. Here in Lagos during the 2019 elections, ballot boxes were snatched, and so much was a misdemeanor took place. These are things that are repeating themselves. So what actually went wrong? Is it that we didn't learn anything from 2019 elections, the February elections?
Ideally, the security agents should not be biased, but we cannot claim, or let me say, I cannot claim that that is the situation in Nigeria. And I will give some practical examples now. So it depends on whose interest you are protecting. Let's isolate the case of Kogi State. The governorship candidate for SDP complained in Kogi that she was attacked. The Inspector General of Police was around, our INEC chairman was around, and she was attacked. Though they are now claiming she's fond of creating scene, and if she lied, the law can take her up on that. And somebody also said she could have presented a video. The video that was presented when Governor Ganduje was packing dollars into his Babariga, what did we do with the video? So we have come to a situation where it appears that the constitutional agencies and parastatals that should protect the people irrespective of political inclinations are compromised. I mean, don't forget that I still pitch myself under the concept of the reality on ground. So I am benchmarking what we can see. Because how could you have deployed such population of security agents for a particular purpose to ensure security, and we still had this level of violence that the diplomatic observers have expressed their concerns, talking about Germany, the European Union, America, and exactly that this level of violence is uncalled for, that people should be allowed to express their wishes. I mean, you don't force me to vote for you. You don't throw my vote away. Look at the videos we're seeing. People will drive comfortably to a polling unit, open fire and everything. The policemen will even be running for cover. So why are we here? How did we get here? It's because personal interest is now overriding national interest. Because like somebody said, if it's for service, we have this level of desperation. And some are there. And you see, Mike Murdoch said, you don't complain about what you condone. So for me, I think we have failed in delivering on the governance responsibility of securing the people. But I'm not surprised. I mean, I go back to the case of Benue State when my president came back to the country and said that the Inspector General of Police, the former one, disobeyed his orders, and people are killed in their hundreds. At another time, the new Inspector General of Police, the president came and said he has lost weight because he's battling the insecurity in the country. I mean, these are pedestrian approach. Do you know the cost of a life of a human being?
Okay, INEC actually did promise that it was going to at least up its ante. Yeah. That's particularly the last elections. The reports were written by various agencies about the areas that actually went bad. I mean, the areas that needed. Did we study this? I still repeat, I'm going back to the same question. I mean, what are the things we have learned? You just you have stated the irresponsibility of our agencies and this in ensuring absolute security, especially during elections. So is it that we just study these documents or we just throw them?
Or is it that INEC actually improved in one way or the other?
I find it difficult to tie myself to that we because this is contrary to my expectations. So I will say they have probably learned to make things worse. Where there is a will, there is a way. And these things are obvious. And in these days and time, people will record, post it, you can review, you can understudy, you can, but like I said earlier, it depends on whose interest you are representing. All right? So, obviously, we have not improved. From the 2019 election that was even claimed to have been, marked with different kinds of skirmishes. So, it's even worse now. And the big question is that, how do you expect me, as a citizen, to go to a polling booth and vote if I cannot be assured of not being exposed to this level of violence? Why should my vote or my life be worth a vote that may not count? These are issues that must concern the government. But I have said it earlier. that in industrial psychology, you talk about reinforcement theory. When military men started getting involved in our electoral processes, I warned that democracy is clearly distinct from militocracy. You cannot have a hybrid of the two. By virtue of orientation, these are two different parallel concepts of management. You don't bring them together. And you can see in the case of Bayelsa State, there's a complaint that the GOC compromised and things like that. But then, who will investigate? Where do we go from here? But we just pray that those who have the privilege of managing Nigeria now will realize that they owe God a huge obligation of justifying the privilege of leadership. Even if they think human beings, you can throw anything at human beings, they owe God a lot. And let's even assume that they are not thinking that they owe God a lot. I think they need to learn from what is happening around the world. The essence of good leadership is to make people rejoice, prosper, have a lovely environment. And the moment the welfare of the people is thrown to the dustbin, not even the back seat, you are preparing them for a revolution. Whether we arrest people who are mentioning revolution or not, go and study what happened in Sudan. Go and study what is happening in Iraq now. Go and study what is happening in Lebanon now. Go and study. It comes to a point when people will say, no, 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 we've had it to our throat. And we should not allow that to happen. Because if you look at areas where people should be grateful for benefiting from the governance process, you will realize that we have so little for, if you want to be generous, to really rejoice over.
All right. We want you to be part of this discussion this morning, like we always do. Would like you to send in your SMS to the number that will be displayed on the screen. Share your thoughts with us on this review we are doing on Kogi and Bayelsa just concluded elections. Please, it's not a call. Just send an SMS. So you just made a comment now that kind of got my heart beating. You said, in spite of all these skirmishes we experienced during elections, who will investigate? Of course, I know that nobody has really been prosecuted and sentenced when we talk about election violence. But going forward, is that what should still continue to be seen? Is that how we will just allow the things to continue to repeat itself? Because next year, Anambra State and Edo State will also be going to the polls.
If anything can go wrong and you do nothing to prevent it, it will go wrong. And whatever goes wrong can get worse. And the worst can become the worst of scenario. So I hope we won't come into the picture of the worst example of democratic experiment. You see, and it all boils down to the desperation that we have allowed in that sector of our national life, which should not be. But some of us have been warning that if it favors you today, it may not favor you tomorrow. So why don't we key to the vision of development for all? And that is why I'm an advocate of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. It talks about zero hunger, decent society, energy, and things that education, gender, responsibility, and on, and partnership amongst nations. As we are here now expressing the sad concerns we have for where our electoral processes have found itself, Dubai is celebrating that about 15 million people visited Dubai last year, and because they have created an enabling environment, the ambience, the ease of doing business, the infrastructure and everything. So you can see a wise nation attracting wealth from the world, because the concept of God is that every part that is inhabited by human beings have their blessings. So it's now your wisdom to attract the blessings. If you rely solely on the revenue you can generate, you are a very foolish person or nation.
You see, and these are the concerns we have. And you can see the huge deposit of resources in Nigeria and how we are mismanaging them. I had the privilege of being in the studio with a former ambassador who told me that when he was in Australia, the governor of his state visited and he asked him, Egbon, do you know that you have this mineral resource in your state? The governor said he did not know because he is politically engaged. I mean, fighting political battles when we should be leveraging on governance deliverables. And why won't there be poverty? You see, so, and it worries me. Look at the 2019 election, sir. We spent not less than 186 billion naira. The results, the way it all went, can it justify that? What is the proposed budget for education in 2020?
Fine. Again, let's go back to the same elections we were talking about. Credibility of these elections, the one in Kogi and Bayelsa, have been called to question. And it borders on our reputation as a nation. We keep shrinking, and the bigger we are, the reputation is getting smaller. And I'm looking at how you can actually, 20 years of uninterrupted democracy, 1999 to 2019. I mean, you said rather than improve, we seem to be diminishing. This reputation has a lot to do with our economy, everything about Nigeria. What do you think, what intervention do you think we need to make now to ensure that all the stakeholders, should we continue to accept excuses from INEC and all the security agencies? Or where do we stop it?
In terms of accepting excuses, what more can we do than to roll out, which people call revolution? But who is going to bail the cat? As we speak now, there is a bill being discussed to pass death sentence, to recommend death sentence for hate speech. But who defines hate speech? Hate speech in law means statements that can throw the society into chaos and that attacks the preserved areas of your human dignity, like sex, race, religion, and things like that. All right? And when you have such draconian law, that means for greeting your neighbor good morning, if your neighbor appears to be more influential than you, you can find yourself in the gallows for hate speech. So can we focus, sir?
Yes.
Now, let's look at our refineries. We have crude oil and gas in abundance. Why don't we make laws that as we shut the borders, refined fuel cannot be imported into this country? And that if the refineries cannot work, everyone there should be sacked. And let's see what will happen. That means in the last 6 years,
can we narrow it down to INEC now?
INEC has, you see, INEC, I have told INEC, the best favor you can do yourself in life is to fear God. If what you are doing is in line with righteous conscience, go ahead. One day you'll be out of office. You sit down in your sitting room, and whatever you have contributed will be replayed to you. There are those who led this country in the past that are sitting down now and looking at what they allowed that has brought us to where we are, that they should have disallowed, that would have made us to move forward. Blessed are the likes of Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. If the dead can see the back, the man should be rejoicing where he is now. So it's a matter of leadership, sir. It's a matter of decision. What are we talking about? Why are the legislators there in the National Assembly, in the state houses of assembly? Rather than be discussing a bill on hate speech, why don't you discuss a bill that will make embezzlement for you to go and hang? But we have found ourselves in a nation where people embezzle billions, and it's like we can do nothing to them. They manipulate the system. We are in a country where people find it difficult to trust the judiciary, find it difficult to trust the executive, find it difficult to take solace in the legislature. And these are the three basic arms of government. Okay. We are in a country where, despite the fact that the borders are shut, some high flyers are still smuggling. We know these things. I said this somewhere this morning. Let the customs officer come out and swear with thunder and lightning that they don't collect bribes. So, I mean, it's a disturbing issue.
Way forward regarding these elections, like I said, we have Edo and Anambra State in 2020. Now, you can look at Edo State. There's already like fire on the mountain in Edo State. The tension in that state is enough to probably declare a state of emergency or something, you know, to be able to curb the level of annoyance and heat in that state. Now, as a way forward to before that election, what are the things you think INEC needs to begin to do to save itself, its name, and save the entire country from another crisis?
What INEC can do,
Yes.
sir, is with this level of violence, if you cancel the whole elections
Cancel?
and allow votes to come. You see, when you
some-
talk
some-
of an
yes,
umpire,
some
when
of
you
the
talk of an
parties
umpire,
some parties are already calling for
Exactly.
Cancellation.
but if you condone it under the doctrine of necessity, there is no little evil. Evil is evil. All right? And for Edo State, why do we have all these tantrums of godfatherism? Because when Godfather was there, he didn't deliver to the people. So he does not feel safe within the society. He failed to improve. Why should we be recycling political leaders in Nigeria? In other countries, they serve and go and rest. What they are enjoying in the state house, they enjoy on the street. And that is the problem of Nigeria.
These elections, are you saying both Kogi and elections, Kogi elections should not stand?
I don't have the power to say that. I'm
No,
just
what are you
saying,
suggesting?
if I were to be INEC, let me ask this question. When democracy was defined, because it's always good to go back to the beginning, was violence part of the definition of democracy? These are the big questions we should be asking. The manual is to guide you. If suddenly, sir, this is on a lighter mood, you have a television, and every time you switch it on, there will be fire from the screen and everything. What will you do? You continue to watch it? So we need to look at where are we coming from? How has it been? Why are we where we are? You know, so
I just want your papers, please.
Sir.
Salary don't enter. Eh? Yes, so. And month I never even reach sef. Na salary plenty, oh. No wonder I no gree collect roja from my hand. Shut up, sir. I'm here to bail my younger brother.
If it happen,
With good laws
Proper funding.
training,
and cooperation.
if it happen.
Still being there, we apologize for that break in transmission, but we'll still have Mr. Jide Ologun here with us in the studio. So I'll just read some messages we have from our viewers. He says, this one is from Chooks from Iba. He says, good morning. Please, I want your guests to explain what happens during MBA elections. What happens there is what happens in the larger society. All the political parties are guilty of electoral violence. They all engage the security agents during elections. Not until we make electoral offices unattractive will continue to go through this electoral violence. That's Chooks from Iba. Another one here says, our electoral process will not get any better as long as we are not ready to change our attitudes and resolve to do what is right. That is Fagboro Damilola from Iju Ishaga. So the person is asking from even your MBA elections there.
Fantastic, fantastic. You see, and my great brother out there, what is happening is that we have been creating a huge apathy because many lawyers are no longer interested in all this. And that's what we are saying. That's what we are saying. You need that trust capital. But thank you for mentioning the larger society. So when it is allowed at the top, definitely it becomes a model for the lower rungs. Now, we are complaining about insecurity when we are negotiating with bandits. I mean, when kidnapping has become like, so the society has to fight the evil. And that is the essence of having the government structure. If it's not allowed, it is not allowed. If it is allowed, it is allowed. So what do we allow in our society? I like making reference to some of the countries I have visited. If you know the mindset to security in Dubai, you'll be amazed, in the UAE generally. That is why when some young Nigerians went there to boggle a bureau de change, I laughed. You don't try it. They don't. Security is what they have offered to the world as a unique selling point. That come into an environment, you are secured. 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m., you see light, people sitting down, transactions going on. All right, you buy goods, they are delivered to your hotel. All right, so, I mean, but here, look, I mean, it's mind-boggling. Even within Lagos, for example, I mean, if you are not in your house by 7 p.m., you must be in the traffic. It's affecting our social lives. It's affecting everything. So who is comfortable with all this? So as a people, we need the government to show us direction. I have given us the example of Singapore. It took a leader to move Singapore from poverty to prosperity. I will give the example of Rwanda. It's the work of Kagame, a leader, to transform the psyche of the people. Mandela started in South Africa by saying, hey, I went to prison for 27 years. Now we have this freedom. Can we unite, white and black, and move South Africa forward? John Magufuli is doing it in Tanzania.
Okay, moving
and people will queue up behind that direction.
Okay, moving Nigeria forward. One of the ways by which we can actually move this country forward is righting the wrongs. We've heard that the regularities of our elections were not strong enough to actually call for annulment or such, or cancellation of the elections. Do you think the regularities and the level of violence in these elections are strong enough for you to actually call for cancellation?
It depends on those we have entrusted as the umpire. You know,
but there are people already calling for the cancellation.
But will they listen to them? Look at, I mean, I say this under the immunity of analysis. Look at the tribunal and the different issues on certificates and everything. It's ridiculous. What is the future of my country? We have even come to the point that you may not need certificate. It's ridiculous. It's
Once
ridiculous.
You have an affidavit.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, even if we are not interested in the present generation, what about the future generation? We need to lay a foundation of credibility. I did a study on what Lee Kuan Yew did in case of Singapore. The man introduced meritocracy. Meritocracy. In fact, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, I understand, asked him that, hey, Lee, what did you do? And the man said, we decided to do the right thing, and we continue to do the right thing. All right, so